Hey everyone, welcome to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Sage Hobbs, author and creator of Naked Communication, and I'm so psyched you're here. This show is all about taking charge of your life in new and inspired ways to create a life you deeply love. It's about being more you in all areas of your life, more courageous, more free, more alive, more naked. I'll be sharing stories and advice from amazing people around the world who are up to incredible things on how they are successfully breaking free from fear and old patterns in order to create incredible relationships and impactful lives so that you can do the same. This is the place to be inspired to live a courageous and naked life. Let's do this. Hi everyone, welcome back to Naked Conversations. I'm your host, Sage Hobbs, and as always, I'm so happy that you're here tuning in. I know some of you are loyal listeners, and I so appreciate any time that I hear from you about the show and how it's made a difference in your life. And if you're new here, thank you. There's so many ways you can use your time, so I hope you get exactly what you need from listening today. I love sharing the show with you. For me, it's really a way to amplify women's voices, to showcase the incredible work that they're doing in the world, and really help inspire others to be more courageous, more fully self-expressed, and step into being the leaders in their lives in a really naked way. So I really believe we need more of that now more than ever. If you want to check out other episodes and learn more about my book or how you can work with me, go on over to sagebhobbs.com and be sure to subscribe. I don't really blog, so my newsletter is the best way to get more stories and support from me directly. And then you'll also get my book guide, which is, I just love sharing my book guide with people. It's free and it's just an incredible resource and tool to help you ask more effectively for what you want in all areas of your life and to really explore your communication style more deeply. So let's dive into today's show. This is a solo episode. And again, if you're new, the way these solo episodes work is I do some storytelling and some exploring and some teaching on topics that I'm curious about. And the intention is that they be really supportive to you and me in really living more powerfully and fully naked lives. So naked really is the peeling back of the layers, the really authentic expression of who you are, the courageous action, the finding your voice, despite fear, with fear, doesn't matter. It's about really showing up fully as yourself. That's what this is all about here. And every time I do a solo show, there's a theme, right? So this week, I am getting into this idea of feminism in some ways, right? So I titled the show, This is Not About Me Hating Men. And I just want to start with that right out the gate. I have resisted calling myself a feminist in some ways because I feel like it has, for lots of reasons, but it's collapsed itself into that meaning us versus them. And that's not what it's about for me. It's about us women claiming our voice and our space and our place and a seat at the table to leverage and support communities and societies moving forward together as a whole. So some of my best friends and several of my aunts have always actively called themselves feminists, and from being women's studies majors to activists to, marches, and they've identified with that title. And while I have usually shared their values and their perspectives, I've championed similar causes and messages, the word feminist wasn't something I claimed until more recently in my life. And maybe I was scared of the association with it, that it sometimes implies I'm angry or I dislike men. Maybe that was a part of it, but more likely I think it's that I was naive. I'd always been a student, or I'd worked in education or in nonprofits where really women are often in leadership. And I've had the good fortune of having a dad and a husband and my friends' husbands who have all been largely respectful of women. So I think then my optimism sort of shrouded my clear vision. And there were a lot of things that I just didn't see fully that impacted my experience as a woman until I'd gotten older and started expanding my worldview more and more and more. And this is coming from me. And if you know my story, I'm a cancer survivor. I've traveled and lived in various parts of the world. I have a master's in counseling psychology. There's a lot that I have already done that I thought would have peeled me back even more nakedly. And yet there's always more to do. There's more to expand into. And so this idea of feminism and how I myself as a woman and a women's empowerment and leadership coach keep growing in that way, I just want to dive on that with you today. So I had the good fortune of having largely supportive men in my life. So I sort of decided I was living in modern times where I didn't really feel much of the disadvantage to being a woman. And lately I've realized that there's just a lot of bullshit to that. And while I have been a very privileged woman with a lot of opportunities, and if you listened to I guess it was 2 weeks ago's episode around privilege, put a link in the show notes, you'll hear more about that. I still can see all the ways in which both internally and externally sexism has impacted me and my clients and the women in my life. So lately I've just been looking at this idea, not from a place of anger, more from a place of curiosity and self-discovery, and how I can best serve you, my listeners, and my clients, and my daughter in really stepping into our voice and our leadership in a bigger way. And as I've been really diving into this further, I can really see how it holds me back, how it holds the women I work with back, how it holds my friends back in ways that are often subtle, but no less significant. So the ways that are often subtle, but no less significant. So since going into business for myself, I've seen how many women struggle with self-doubt, how it holds them back from sharing their ideas, from taking risks. I've learned how few women who start companies and startups get funded compared to men. I was really surprised by that. Again, maybe there was a piece of me that was just naive because I didn't come from a corporate background. I've listened and I've observed within myself the hesitation to go big, to raise your rates, to ask for the promotion, to ask for the lead on a project, to make the request of a partnership or a collaboration. I now really see how all over the place we as women hold ourselves back and play smaller. So I've got some stories to share from like the last 6 months or so of my life that have really stood out for me and got me to this topic with you here today, where I'm really exploring feminism and internalized sexism and my own voice being expressed more powerfully alongside you. So let's see. One of the ones that came up for me was that a friend of mine was invited to speak on a topic that he's not familiar with. This is a friend of mine who's a man, and he's an amazing public speaker. He is known for his skill as a speaker in his industry. And with little, if any hesitation, he said yes, and just figured that he would learn what was necessary to deliver the talk excellently. He was talking to me and actually supporting me in getting onto some bigger stages when he sort of offhandedly told me this story. And I remember just so clearly, it was like a light bulb moment for me that I'd recently been invited to speak on something that I was passionate about, but because I lacked a PhD on the subject, I went into self-doubt or questioning or looking for external validation. And here was my friend who knew far less on the topic he was going to speak about, who said yes without hesitation and fully just assumed he would figure it out. And I realized, was this some type of internalized sexism holding me back, right? Where I had so internalized the messages that as a girl who's now a woman, I needed to prove myself, to have all the accolades and credentials and certifications in order to stand in my knowledge, my value, my skill, my experience. And here was a peer of mine who's brilliant and awesome, but who had a much different message around what he had to do to prove or not prove his value or his worth or expertise on the stage. And again, nothing he said, he wasn't saying anything that he said in order to have me have that insight. It was just watching and noticing with curiosity of my own experience when he was sharing the story with me, how I have allowed myself to be held back by messages and systems that maybe haven't served me. So the question I have for you in this is, when you're faced with an opportunity or a challenge or an experience that's maybe a stretch for you, I want you just to ask yourself, how might a man respond to this? How might a man respond to this? Now, I realize it's a gross generalization to ask that type of question and that not all men or women are the same. I'm very much aware of that. I know we're culturally dynamic individuals with different stories, messages, beliefs, privileges. But just play with the question and see if something new shows up for you. This is Naked Conversations. It's real and open exploration to go deeper into who we really are so we can speak up and live our own best lives. So if that question serves you when you're feeling hesitant or when you're feeling fearful to go in and have a conversation with your boss, with your supervisor, when somebody asks you to collaborate on something, when something is a stretch for you and you just notice your own fear or resistance or hesitation or doubt, just play with that question. How might a man respond differently to this? And see what comes up for you. So another thing that happened was with a male friend of mine who had this awesome idea for a business training and he wanted to run it by me. And as he's sharing this idea and I'm thinking, oh, this is really cool. This is an exciting opportunity. I asked if he was going to run with it himself or if he was bringing it to me in case I wanted to move forward with it. And he was so confident that it would be pretty easy to develop and deliver, which I went right into the place of our expertise or lack thereof and what we would need to do to actually be qualified and prepared to deliver it. And again, I was struck with these questions, right? Where are you holding yourself back from sharing your idea, giving your input, sharing your talent because you think you just don't know enough yet? And what would it take for you to feel ready enough? So I'm high on integrity. I'm a big believer in integrity. I'm not going on the speaking circuit on neuroplasticity or anything like that anytime soon. So this isn't like, hey, just say you know it all. Not at all. It's more of a question around how we as women doubt ourselves and hold ourselves back comparatively to our male counterparts. And these questions that I'm mentioning here, I'll put in the show notes. So make sure you go check them out because I really want you to take them on and explore this for yourself so that you can really peel back the next layer and get more and more clear, confident, courageous in how you show up. Within the realm of your own knowledge and experience, how do you hold yourself back with that self-doubt, that not enoughness, that waiting until you're ready? Like I said, it's not that I'm saying just go speak on something or throw your name in the hat for a job that you have zero experience or background in. But within your own realm of wisdom and experience, what are we waiting for? How are we holding ourselves back? So lastly, I was out to dinner with a friend, and this is a female friend, who is highly successful by all measures that I can identify, at least. She's had a thriving career. She's highly recognized in her field. She's, a mom, and she's happily married, and she's a wonderful and quote unquote successful woman. And I can't even remember what exactly we were talking about when one of us said that would never have happened if I were a man. And we erupted in a collective exclamation of exactly, which turned the heads of the men at tables nearby, at neighboring tables. They looked at us like, what are you screaming about? And again, like I said, we love men. We want to do this thing called creating an amazing life and a thriving society in concert with them. We love our husbands. We love our sons. It's just an awareness of how our systems are designed so that we can still be powerful within those systems. So we want to have a heightened awareness of sexism, of where feminism fits within that, and our own self-awareness around how we may have internalized some of those messages so that we can thrive inside of a system that has historically, here in the West, in the United States, been dominated by men and continues to be. We want to be powerful within those systems, speaking up, making courageous choices, not us versus them, but more of let's make sure we're at the table, looking out for ourselves and looking out for our fellow women so that everybody can thrive. So the guiding questions for you today are, how might a man respond to this? Where are you holding yourself back from sharing your idea, offering your input, your talent, because you think you just don't know enough yet? What would it take for you to feel ready enough? And within the realm of your knowledge and experience, how do you hold yourself back with self-doubt, not enoughness, or waiting until you're ready? All of these questions are over in the show notes. Please go check them out. This is episode 25. And I'm really now proud to say I am a feminist, meaning I believe in establishing and achieving political, economic, personal, and social equality for the sexes and anywhere you are on the continuum. I think we're all part of that journey together, and I'm so honored to be in this conversation with you. Your voice, your leadership, and your full you-ness are needed in your relationships, your communities, and even in the world. So go be more naked. I'm here cheering you on. Thank you so much for listening to Naked Conversations. Yay! It really means the world to me every time you show up. And if you want to know more about how to work with me personally and my coaching, you can check that out over at sagebhabs.com. You can also get some great free resources over there about how to make powerful requests and many blog posts full of resources for living a naked life, as well as grab a copy of my book, Naked Communication, Courageously Create the Relationships You Really Want. And lastly, keep the conversation going with us over in the Facebook community, sagebhabs.com/Facebook, where we can keep talking about these super important and powerful topics of living a life fully expressed. Thanks again. See you next time.